Today, the latest weapons, coupled with the fighting skill of the American soldier, stand ready, on the alert all over the world to defend this country, you, the American people, against aggression. This is The Big Picture, an official television report to the nation from the United States Army. Now, to show you part of the big picture, here is Sergeant Stuart Queen.
Twice in the last 40 years, our country has thrown its full economic and military power into a deadly struggle to prevent the triumph of a dangerous aggressor in Western Europe. We have long recognized that the freedom and security of Europe are essential to our own freedom and security. Therefore, it is vitally important that the countries of Western Europe be strong enough to resist outside domination. One of the means by which this is being accomplished is through the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Our participation in NATO is a new and revolutionary development in American history. Never before had this nation committed herself to go to the aid of a country outside this hemisphere in case of attack. Never before had we received similar guarantees from other countries. Never before had we agreed to join other nations in an active effort to build up our own mutual defensive strength.
World War II was over. Peace had finally come to a troubled mankind after 4 years of bitter struggle, and the future looked full of hope. And peace. But hope for an era of security was soon dimmed when it became clear that the Soviet Union did not intend to cooperate with the rest of the world. Nations of the West disbanded their armies and turned their energies to tasks of rebuilding their shattered homes and economies, building for peace. On the other side of the continent, there was a different point of view. They built for aggression and intimidation. The Soviet Union continued to maintain the biggest peacetime army in history, a giant octopus whose tentacles spread out to enslave Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Albania, East Germany, and finally Czechoslovakia. Berlin became a battleground in a Cold War that threatened to become quite hot under the proddings of communist propagandists who spread discontent throughout all of Europe. In Greece, communist agitations led to open conflicts and civil war. Italy, with the largest communist party in the West, built up a volatile atmosphere that threatened to explode. The same in France. The free countries of Europe recognized that their only safety was in strength and began to develop regional organizations for collective defense. At Brussels in 1948, Britain, France, and the Benelux countries formed the Western Union. Then on April 4, 1949, at Washington, D.C., 12 nations joined together to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and serve notice to the world that armed aggression against one of the allies would be considered an attack against all. One of the first and most important problems confronting the North Atlantic Council, top policy-making body of NATO, and the Military Committee was the selection of a man to head the combined defense forces, the job of Supreme Commander. It was offered to a university president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He took on the assignment and left with these words from President Harry Truman.
You have the wholehearted backing of the people of the United States, and I know that you'll have that same backing from the 11 other nations who are in the Atlantic Treaty. Goodbye and good luck.
General Dwight D. Eisenhower the man who had led the victorious Allied forces in World War II, who had the confidence and respect of the entire Western world, was entrusted with the task of rebuilding the military defense of Western Europe.
I returned to Europe as a military commander, but with no miraculous plans, no display of military force. I returned with an unshakable faith in Europe, this land of our ancestors, in the underlying courage of its people, in their willingness to live and sacrifice for a secure peace and the continuance and the progress of civilization. The children of all nations deserve better than we have so far been able to promise them. They bear no hatred, suspicion, or distrust. Let us work for them and put aside all prejudices and past grievances. And let us never shrink from defending their birthright of liberty, even as ours has been cherished and staunchly defended for us.
The job of build-up began. A flow of supplies which had started 2 years earlier for survival under the Marshall Plan was now directed toward the new goal, security for the NATO nations. Working out of temporary headquarters in the center of Paris, an international staff assembled to assess and deal with the immediate problems of mutual defense. The planning boards, under the supervision of Deputy Supreme Commander General Alfred M. Grunther, were confronted with overwhelming odds. Here was the Allied strength. America had 100,000 troops in Europe. France, 500,000 men under arms. Britain, 500,000. Netherlands and Italy together, less than 500,000 in service. Fewer still in Norway, Belgium, and Greece combined. Against these, the huge Red Army, 4.5 million strong, plus 2.5 million of satellite nations. Men once again had to learn the tools of war. But this time, if there was a war, no one nation would stand alone. Each country had pledged what they could afford in men and materiel. The French army became the backbone of the new force. They stepped up the pace of their maneuvers. Soldiers, more confident now that they were part of the great NATO organization. On the sea, France presented a revitalized navy with its own air arm. Belgium's navy became part of the combined defense. To the north, sailors of Denmark's fleet, as well as soldiers of her army, came under the NATO flag. The Netherlands pledged 3 divisions, and Britain rapidly increased the strength of her available forces. The United States promised 6 fully equipped divisions. Canada's soldiers returned to the continent they had recently helped liberate. Italy put in 3 divisions of mountain troops, while at the top of the continent, fighting men of Norway came, equipped with material from America for the mutual defense of all. A beginning had been made. Men and women of a dozen different nations were working on problems of security during peacetime, not waiting for the moment when it might be too late to be prepared. Men of the free world were taking a large part in shaping their own destiny. One of the first orders to come from the new SHAPE headquarters was the establishment of NATO Defense College, a source of trained officers for the international force.